Right. Welcome to the first episode of Rocks and Thorns podcast. My name is Doug Smith. I'm the author of The Path of Rocks and Thorns, Leadership Lessons from a Prison Cell. I'm a social worker. I'm a leadership development trainer and coach. And I'm a person with a lived experience of mental illness, substance use disorder, incarceration, and past trauma. And that forms the core of my leadership practice and the way that I lead. And one of the things that we want to do in this podcast is feature just phenomenal leaders who have had life experiences that are, for a lot of people, beyond imagination. And just to learn about the breathtaking ways that they are showing up as leaders. And before we introduce our amazing guest, I want to have my partner and co-host and wife, Shelley, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Shelley McAllister, and I am a partner at D Degree Coaching and Training. I help Doug with marketing, operations, and things like that. And it's such an honor to be on this podcast and to be joining him as a co-host, because I hear little parts about different people and different leaders throughout the years we've been together. And I always think, oh, I have this question, like I have a question, and now I'm actually going to be able to ask them. So I'm really excited to be here. And I'm a licensed master social worker. Did I already say that? But I am.
Who knows? Let's put it in there twice.
Okay, do it.
All right. Well, I'm very happy to introduce Richelle Madigan. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself, but I just will say, I have this thing that happens when I'm coaching people, when I can tell people are really connected to their own personal mission in life. And because I feel sort of chills down my arm, and I'm like, okay, this person's really connected with their purpose. And that was my experience of working with you as a coach. I will say that we got it. I got off on the wrong foot with you almost immediately. And, I'm always learning how to become a better trainer and coach. But clearly that was a mishap. And I was so happy that we got on the phone and repaired that. And then I got to learn about you, because you really are remarkable. I'm wondering if you could just introduce yourself and tell us more about what you do.
Sure. So my name's Richelle Madigan. I always struggle with introductions of what scope, because I feel like humans are so complex. But I'm many things. I'm a mom of 8 amazing children. I'm a wife. I am an executive director of a family-run organization in Washington State that supports parents and caregivers who are navigating children's behavioral health challenges. I came into that work because several of my children are utilizers of behavioral health services, and specifically one of my kids who's adopted had we had such a difficult time getting help for him, and really the supports and services that should have served our family well were really a big source of trauma for us for a really long time, and it's what brought me into the work that I do, and really being afforded this incredible opportunity to really walk out my life's purpose. And it warms my heart, Doug, to hear that your experience with me landed as somebody walking in their life's purpose, because I genuinely feel so grateful every day that I get to do that. And that some of my life's most horrendous challenges that caused me some of the most significant trauma in my life, now those things get to be used for good, to pave the way for other people to not experience those things. And so I'll always be grateful for that. What else? For years, before coming into this work on a paid basis, I became kind of an accidental advocate for families. My son had such significant behavioral health challenges that they really exceeded what resources existed in our state. And so I had to advocate with legislators and media and others to create the resources that didn't exist. And in the process of doing that, families came to find me as kind of an expert in making what doesn't exist. And so I for years, on a volunteer basis, I would coach families on, how to advocate with legislators and others to get their kids' needs met. And that ended up turning into a lot of other opportunities. I sit on the state's Behavioral Health Advisory Council for Washington State. I got on that board really because I was angry that the same, in my neck of the woods, there was a behavioral health organization that was consistently getting all the funding. And in our community, they were widely mistrusted. People would say things to me like, I'd rather drive 100 miles than go there. And so for me, someone who lives in this community, I was really angered by that. I'm like, how can these people keep getting all the money when nobody at the state who's funding them knows that they suck? It made me mad. So I went looking for who holds the purse strings. Is there any way I can weigh in on this? And I found out that there is, in fact, a required advisory council for federal block grant funds and how they get spent. And so back in 2018, I got on that board, and now I co-chair that group. And it's been a really impactful way to impact change in my state. I'm happy to report that behavioral health organization is really a lot different now. They're amazing. My kids go there for services. So mission accomplished. I didn't do it. That there's a new director there that's just fantastic and made a lot of changes. But I'm just so grateful. So
wow.
I've got what else?
Right.
What else?
Can I just say real quick two observations? One, the power of a mom. Two, I wish I had known you about 20 years ago. I wish I had known you. I just thought, this is what it is. Yeah.
It's so important. I came into Shelley's life. What was it? Is it 9 years ago? I've lost track. 9 years ago. I got that right. Yeah. And then when we moved in, I got to be in the life of two absolutely extraordinary kids, both with their own unique needs, autism, ADD. And so I proceeded to spend the next 8 years getting it absolutely wrong on every single level as a stepfather. Yes. Well, we're working on it. I'm a work in progress. So, but I'm curious. So what happened? What was the turning point for you? Because you said that you have this knack for making the impossible possible, or creating something that isn't there, to come up with right up against systems that seem immovable, and then just go ahead and create your own thing. Like, when did that start in your life? When did you notice that?
Well, I left out something that's really important to me, which is that I'm neurodivergent myself. So I live with ADHD. I didn't actually know I had ADHD until I was an adult. I lived with a lot of self-loathing that I just thought were personality flaws, things that were wrong with me. Come to find out, actually, most of the things I really don't like about myself are just a part of my neurodivergence, that once I accepted that and figured out how to create accommodations for myself and really honestly give myself grace in those areas, that was a powerful transformative thing in my life. But I think that some of the attributes that contributed to my success in creating resources where there weren't any are related also to my neurodivergence. I always have this thing about, it's questioning authority, but in a respectful way. Like, is that really how it has to be? Like, status quo has never been a thing for me, because I'm always thinking about a better way of doing something, or visioning what it could look like if we just stripped away all the expectations that exist in that space. And that really, I think, has been the driving force. That, and I'll say my faith as well. Like, I'm a person, my faith is really central to who I am. And like, I really wholly believe, if I feel in my spirit that God, I believe in God. I don't force my religion on anyone, but I believe in God and Jesus. And so for me, if I believe I'm hearing from the Lord that something's going to come to pass, then I believe that. So I'm just sitting here waiting for my part and how to make that happen. And I think for some people, when they encounter a barrier or just a really difficult circumstance, they accept that as the inevitability, and there can be a lot of discouragement that comes. And for me, there was always an inherent like, oh, that sounds really discouraging. I wonder if we can find a way around that. Like,
Wow. Yeah.
so then, and then I guess that's part one. And part two is forming partnerships, right? Like, I definitely don't have resources within myself to solve everybody's problems, not even to solve my own problems. But it became about, if there's this barrier in the way and I can identify what that barrier is, who is the key holder of that barrier? Who has in their sphere of control things they can move to impact that, and then go find those people and make friends with them. So, over the years, I've made friends with a lot of influential people, and not in an inauthentic, let me take what you have sort of way, but just in a, hey, we're struggling, and I read that you are over this program, and do you have any capability of helping us? Like, just authentically saying, we're up against this barrier and it sucks, and this is what's happening to my family. And then letting them go, oh yeah, that does suck. And yeah, I do have something I can do about that. And so it became, one, not accepting status quo, two, getting the right people at the table and forming partnerships with them to build a plan to make a change.
It's
Wow.
something I know. My head is like so interesting because I am absolutely one that would not does not accept the status quo. When it came to my son, he's on the autism spectrum back in the day. I thought I turned it around to I'm not parenting correctly or well enough, or there's something about like I need to be better as a parent. And if I was, and I could fill in the gaps of all the things that he's not getting at school, at daycare, in the community, in our and that was 24 years ago. I was a single parent. Like I'm not gonna dog myself too much, but I love how you were like, well, this is a problem. We need it to be solved. How can we build in resources or like figure out who I can ask? And I was just like, what's available? Okay, that's too expensive. I can't afford that, or that isn't working at all. So I would just do research myself and try to be the best mom and understand autism and understand and I got some therapy for him and me. I just moved within this very small box of what the opportunities are. And you saw this as, this isn't working. This isn't good enough. Who else can I bring to the table to
and let me validate your experience, because having supported many, many families over the last more than a decade, what you just described is so common. Like, I think our systems are almost designed to perpetuate that, to place the burden on the parents, where it makes it easy to just throw in the towel and go, oh, it's me, I'm failing. No, the systems are failing our kids. And that became really apparent to me along our journey at some point. I figured out along the way that the more people I talked to, the more real I got about what horrors we were facing, the more I heard from other people, oh my gosh, yeah, I know somebody that's going through the same thing. So there came a point in our journey where I kind of started living our lives in a fishbowl of social media, where every time something terrible happened, I posted about it. And I made big public open letters to Congress people and open letters to legislators. And over time, those things, some of them went viral. Our family was featured in some news stories about how the behavioral health systems were failing. And it would be comment after comment of other families saying, we're going through this too. But the thing is that the horrors of what that looked like on the day-to-day basis were so terrible that nobody wanted to talk about it. So one person living in a fishbowl on social media gave other people permission to say, yeah, I'm going through that too. And it got the state on the hook for, you can no longer say this is a one thing happening to a one family. This is a problem that's a systemic problem that needs addressed in our system.
Wow. What are your so you talk about partnerships. Like, what's your relationship to state legislators? Are they familiar with you? Do they just swing the doors open when you come?
Well, I wouldn't say they swing the doors open, but I would say they listen to me. I sit on a variety of different legislatively driven work groups and committees. I've had private conversations with many legislators across the aisles. I'm a registered independent, so that kind of helps my cause. I'm able to relate to both sides of the aisle. And I think, struggle is something everyone can relate to. And when you're just authentic and real about what's going on and the need to solve it, partnerships form, right? I've never been a person who goes out trying to find more people to name drop, I guess you could say, but it's always been about, hey, this is what's happening either for my family or somebody that I'm advocating with, another family that I'm trying to get resources, help these parents find resources for their kids. And so it's just been about, here's the situation that's happening and what's within your sphere of influence to help. And if there isn't anything, who can you recommend to us that would have capability to help with this problem? And so asking those types of questions has broadened my circle of influence over many years to where, now if I have a problem, I know people in a lot of different agencies. I have friends at the governor's office, I don't have to have the answers to every question because I know lots of people that have lots of answers. So I can go ask other people to bring their expertise to the table. And it's been really beautiful what I've seen come from that, getting families' needs met in a way that I couldn't have done on my own.
So Doug will appreciate this. My son is brilliant and is also trying to find a job right now. He has an associate's degree in general science, and he has a certificate in full stack developer certificate he got from ACC. The biggest challenge that we have is that the programs that are out there for people on the spectrum are typically programs for people that are not able to live independently. They don't have college degrees. Their types of employment that they might be able to do are very different than the types of employment that my son is capable of. There's just like this big gap. And he's been to enough programs where he gets in a room and realizes that he is high functioning compared to some of the other kids in the room or the people now, the adults in the room. And he just completely, he's like, this isn't for me. And there is a missing gap. And just sitting here listening to you, I'm like, instead of being frustrated by that, why don't I start making some phone calls and trying to figure out like, hey, so just sitting here talking to you, my brain is spinning on what I might be focused on this week.
Yeah. So something that most people don't know is that I don't know if where you all are, what your education system looks like, but here we have IEPs, individualized education plans. And people have access to, like, you can have an IEP in college. And so look down those pathways, because it might be that some of the programs that are already existing they're more tailored for somebody else that went advocating to create a program, but there might be individualized education programs out there that he could, craft on his own to, here's what I need, what can you do? Mm-hmm. And I know that certain educational institutions, they have an obligation to respond to things like that. Like there's contractual obligations for things like IEPs. So finding out where those places are that already exist, you might not have to go make those pathways. They might just be there and you don't know about them.
Okay.
So
notepad.
Beautiful.
And something too, like I would encourage him, like I never thought I was going to be an executive director of a nonprofit. Like I'm a mom, that's my email. If you ever get an email from me, it says executive director of Washington State Community Connectors, co-chair of Behavioral Health Advisory Council, mom of 8. That's my main gig, with a little winky face. And that's the truth. Like I came into this for years as a volunteer, when my work serving other families that was volunteer got so prevalent and I was doing it so much that I was taking time away from my family. I started getting coached by people, leaders that I knew that were like, there's one leader in particular. His name's Josh Wallace. He's the CEO of Peer Washington. And he had said to me, Richelle, you're amazing. And you need to stop being tokenized. Like you need to find a way to get paid for doing this work because it's a job you're doing. And so he helped me create, my own contracting. I was contracting with some state agencies to provide advocacy assistance to families after that. And, I think if your son is passionate about something and he's driven to do a certain thing, like don't let the educational system define your level of success. Figure out what you're good at and then go chase that, because the job, it can become a job where there, defined pathways that exist. It'll be round peg in a square hole kind of a thing, or vice versa. But you can go drill your own hole.
This is so good. Go drill your own hole.
I might write that down.
If it doesn't exist, go create it. I love it. So one of the things I notice about, seasoned leaders or inexperienced leaders, what have you, that really this is about communication. It's about creating effective communication. And, so we always get feedback back from people in the form of whether they oppose us, there's disagreement and things like that. So being an effective leader means being an effective communicator. And I'd love to know, how did you develop that? What was that like as you were working to create change? What were people's reactions to you? And just how did you develop as a communicator?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think in the particular work that I'm in, I think in any facet, self-reflection is a really important part of growth. For me, what that looked like was realizing that I had trauma lenses in place, that impacted my communication style with people that I needed to unlock doors that were shut in front of me. My family was harmed by systems that weren't serving us well. And so I had this super glued lens over my eyes of, I'm going to have to stand toe to toe with everyone to get our needs met. And it's us against the world. So in order to be able to effectively advocate, I had to come to realize that people in the system are also, we're shared humans before we're all the things we don't understand about each other. And I really made it my mission to get to know them as humans so that I would not let that trauma lens be in the way of my communication with them. And that has served me well.
That's beautiful. And to our audience, the sounds of joy behind you, I'll remind you that being a mom is Richelle's first gig. So
absolutely.
We welcome the sound of children in the background.
Yes, you'll hear me. You'll see me muting a lot, and I'm I tell everyone when I'm in meetings, I'm sorry, not sorry. I have kids. I wish we could normalize child noises on Zoom sometimes.
Yes,
that's the way it goes. How is being neurodivergent a superpower as a leader?
Well, I think that depends on how you respond to it. Again, I spent a significant chunk of my life really feeling shame, not realizing that neurodivergence was even a thing. And then when I received my diagnosis, it was really empowering. I kind of went down a research rabbit hole to learn more about what my diagnosis was and discovered, wow, all these things that I really don't like about myself are actually part of my neurodivergence. That was such a just freeing realization. And I think recognizing the areas where I'm not strong, rather than just falling in a hole of self-loathing over those things, recognizing them as an opportunity to find accommodation. And so, certain things that I know that I struggle with, I pull in other people that's their superpower,
Awesome. There's lots of joy.
They're wrestling right now.
Of course.
Wow.
I know. Yes.
Wow. There's
a full headlock happening just to my left. It's full joy, but it's happening. Sure.
Got you. Yes. This is asserting dominance.
This is where your neurodivergence could help, though, because you can perseverate on some. You can hyper focus sometimes, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's distracting, but it's all good. They're gonna do what they're gonna do.
So I mean, I love what you're saying about being self-reflective. I think that all leaders could be strengthened by learning to work with people on your team who might be neurodivergent, who might have other ways of communicating and processing the world. I think we could all benefit from that. I'm curious if you were doing a class called being an effective leader with people who are neurodivergent, what are some of the key principles would you want to impart?
Being an effective leader. Let's see. Let me think on that one for a second.
This is so good.
Being an effective leader, I would say know yourself. I mean, it's easy to know the places that you like about yourself, right? We all know what we're good at, and we love to hear about those things and think about those things. But knowing the areas that you're not strong in, I think we have a natural tendency to want to try to fix those things, but that's a lot of wasted energy, in my opinion, because people are good at some stuff and not good at other things. So
absolutely,
instead of trying to fix everything about ourselves, if we lean into what we're good at, me recognizing what I'm not good at and enlisting other people to do those things frees me up to flourish in the areas that I am good at. I'm a thought leader. I'm a visionary. So when my brain isn't clogged up with, gee, I need to do the dishes right now. Like, I can pay anybody to do the dishes, but I can't pay anybody to be visionary, and that's my superpower. So recognizing where my strengths aren't and employing other people who that's their skill set to do that frees me up to flourish in the things I'm good at, and that helps me walk in my life's purpose.
She's amazing. I mean, Doug told me this was going to be a good interview, and
I know.
Yeah.
I wish I knew you when I was starting my career. It's such a powerful principle. So
just really quick, my computer might die. So if I black out, we can take that out. But if my computer,
yes. Totally fine. Well, I think we're actually heading towards the end of our interview. I would love to hear a little bit more about what specifically your organization does, because it has statewide impact, but it is also a national model.
Wow.
Yeah, so we are a statewide organization. Our organization is Washington State Community Connectors, and we do statewide support of parents and caregivers who have kids with behavioral health challenges. What that looks like is we hold a bunch of different. We operate a bunch of different projects. One of them is that we hold the contract for the it's a mouthful, Washington State Children's Behavioral Health Statewide Family Network. I have to say that whole mouthful because there are a couple of statewide family networks, so I have to distinguish which one we hold. But in that, we have, a network of parents and caregivers who've had experience navigating children's behavioral health services. So when often families find us kind of when they're desperate and they need services or resources, they find us, and we don't offer any specific services per se, but we offer connection to a community of parents who've been there and done that. And so we can connect families to other families with lived experience. We host an array of different events and trainings. We teach parents things like how to tell their story, how to, serving on groups that make decisions for families. We have another project that we operate is the SUD family education training. So we offer a training that's teaching loved ones who have family members battling with substance use disorder how to navigate that with their loved ones in a way that's helpful and not harmful. We have participated in the rollout of a national best practice for crisis response for youth called MRSS, Mobile Response Stabilization Service. So we've provided family lived experience in and through that rollout so that it's fully informed with, the voices of people who've been through crisis and know what we need when we're in crisis. Last year, I visioned and brought to life an event called Connecting Communities that brings together. So this came about because my husband actually had a behavioral health crisis, which was the first time in his life, and it impacted our marriage, our family. Like in that moment, we really needed individual counseling, family counseling, and marriage therapy, and all of those things had at least a 3-month wait to access. So it was really like it was life or death, and we were able to find things to bridge the gap. Like we still were on those wait lists and we still did access those clinical services. But while we were waiting, we were able to get services through a local church And it got me thinking, like, how many amazing grassroots things are happening in communities, in faith-based circles, cultural-based circles, peer-run things, and even just individual innovators that are contributing to wellness in unthought of, not on anybody's radar kind of ways. And how can we link arms with that between our formalized systems? So I created this event called Connecting Communities. We're about to do the second annual one here in 2 weeks. But it brings together church leaders, community leaders, grassroots. It could be an art. There's an organization locally called Art in the Park where people get together and they do free art classes in the park. But those are all things that contribute to wellness in a proactive way. And, we're facing unprecedented funding shortages and workforce shortages. And so the more we can not have to reinvent wheels and link arms with things that are happening in community, the more we can get closer to meeting people's needs. So we bring in a nationally renowned leadership consultant, Ellen B. Kagan. She flies in from the East Coast to do leadership training in this Connecting Communities event. Wow. And teaches this whole array of people. We give them space to tell everybody, what's your special sauce? What are you doing in community that's contributing to wellness? And how can we replicate that in other places? So recently, I was very excited to bring that to the National Training Institutes for the University of Connecticut in Washington, D.C. just a few weeks ago as a national model. Nobody else in the nation is doing this. So that was encouraging for me, especially as a neurodivergent person. Like imposter syndrome, which, by the way, was the thing that Doug and I, got off to a bumpy start. That was the source of our bumpiness. He told me that imposter syndrome wasn't real. And I was like, that's not true. I've struggled with it my whole life. But, for me, hearing from all these other states in Washington, D.C., I just thought this was a good idea because it was solving a problem, but no one else is solving that problem in that way. And it's something that a lot of other states are very excited about. So in that way, we are a national thought leader just over here in our little neck of the woods in Washington. So that's very exciting.
That is so exciting. And I think I've told you that part of the work I do is going to local communities throughout Texas and working with just a wide array of stakeholders to figure out how do we keep kids and adults with behavioral health challenges and crises out of the criminal justice system. And what you've created, I wish it were in every community because of the incredible difference it would make. So yeah. I do want to get information from you. I want to put it in to all the materials we provide and into the reports we write as a model that people could replicate.
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah, we were fortunate because the timing aligned. So our state is in the middle of a several-year strategic planning effort for behavioral health. So we were able to invite those strategic planners into the Connecting Community space with us last year. And so they were able to take ideas they heard in the, prior to that, most of their strategic planning efforts were linked with clinical services, not a lot of community involvement. So we were able to provide that community piece and bring awareness of what's going on right into our state strategic plan. So that's been really impactful.
Wonderful. I also, if I get a gig on advocacy training, I want to hire you.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I know you've got a lot going on, Richelle. Thank you for making this time for us. This has just been fantastic.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys taking the time to chat with me. It's always weird to talk about myself, but I appreciate this comfortable space. It hasn't felt overwhelming or weird. So thank you for that.
Good. Thank you for being you. Gosh. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well,